The commission begins to investigate what happened at the White House on the morning of September 11th. Most importantly, the question with regards to Cheney was, why did he authorize the Pentagon on the morning of 9/11 to begin shooting down passenger planes if they approached Washington, D.C.? Cheney was at the White House. The president was in Florida. Cheney, claiming he was acting at the authorization of the president, told the Pentagon to be prepared to shoot down passenger planes, and he insisted, he being the vice president, insisted to the 9/11 Commission that he had only issued this order after consultation with the president and after receiving the president's approval. The commission staff, and I think most of the commissioners, become convinced over time that that account is just not true, that the vice president issued the shoot-down order without any authorization from the president, an act that would almost certainly be unconstitutional. The vice president really has no role in military decision-making. If there was a shoot-down order issued, it should have been issued either by the president or by the defense secretary in his place. The commission, if you read between the lines of the 9/11 Commission report, I think you can see that they didn't believe the vice president.
We're talking to Phillip Shenon, investigative reporter with the New York Times, has just come out with the book, The Commission, The Uncensored History of the 9/11 Investigation. It comes from his years of reporting on the commission as well as the aftermath. Can you talk about where Bob Kerrey stood, who replaced Max Cleland? The reports are that he almost quit when he heard about Zelikow's connections to Karl Rove and Condoleezza Rice.
Kerrey joins the commission in December of 2003. There are really only several months left in the investigation at that point. He cancels his Christmas vacation with his wife in Italy, and he gets on the train and comes down to Washington and begins reading up on what's in the commission's files. And on the very first day he begins going through the files, he comes across a memo that Zelikow had apparently prepared listing all of his ties to the Bush administration, his friendship with Condi Rice, his involvement on the transition team, the fact that he had written the 2002 preemptive war strategy for the White House that would be used to justify the Iraq War in 2003.
Explain that.
We have to backtrack a bit, but
right.
In 2002, this is before the creation of the 9/11 Commission, Condoleezza Rice contacts Zelikow at the University of Virginia and asks him to prepare a document for the White House that would justify a preemptive war, an attack against an enemy that did not necessarily pose an immediate threat to the United States. In many ways, it would be a document that would turn American military doctrine on its head. Zelikow does this and produces quite a masterfully written a memo that's called the National Security Strategy of the United States, issued in September in 2002. And very few people know that this document was written by Philip Zelikow of the University of Virginia. That really wouldn't be well known for another 2 years. Now, bringing the story forward a bit, Bob Kerrey comes across the memo listing all of Zelikow's ties to the White House and his contacts and his friendships, and announces immediately to Tom Kane, the chairman of the commission, that it's either him or me. Zelikow goes or I go. How could you possibly have hired somebody with so many conflicts of interest to run this investigation?
President Bush. Talk about the unique circumstances under which President Bush and Vice President Cheney testified before the commission.
Well, for most of the life of the 9/11 Commission, the president and the vice president had no intention of meeting with the 9/11 Commission. They argued that it was not the president's place to be involved in that sort of questioning. And there was some history there. That President Lyndon Johnson had refused to answer questions from the Warren Commission, at least face-to-face. At the end of the day, political pressures were such that the president and the vice president, Bush and Cheney, agreed to meet with all 10 members of the 9/11 Commission. They would only meet with the commissioners if they could appear together. The questioning could not be under oath, and it could not be recorded in any way. and it took place in the spring of 2004, just a couple of months before the commission finished its work.
Wasn't the most astounding part of that it wasn't under oath?
Well, again, as I say, there's no history of presidents being required to submit to questioning like this, and you know, the White House had a strong argument in many ways. President Johnson was not required to submit to similar questioning, and certainly not under oath, before the Warren Commission that was investigating the assassination of his predecessor.
Let me ask you about those in this country who believe 9/11 was an inside job. How did you deal with that, Phillip Shenon, and the fact, for example, the concerns among many others that the building number 7 was not even talked about in the commission report?
It's a tough issue. I just haven't seen the evidence. I mean, there's certainly people who believe it was an inside job. I have trouble believing that myself. I have great difficulty believing in vast conspiracies. I just think a conspiracy of that nature would require competence on the part of people in the federal government that I just don't believe exists in the federal government.
The Jersey Girls, their role in all of this, who they were, the significance and the formation and the conclusions and their attitude afterwards to what ultimately came out.
Well, this commission would never have been formed without the pressure of the 9/11 families. You know, there was great resistance from the White House. There was great resistance from Republican leaders in Congress to having any sort of investigation, certainly no independent investigation of 9/11.
McCain did push for it, didn't he?
Oh, McCain was absolutely a champion of this, and I think second only to the families of Senator John McCain in getting the commission created.